Hey, welcome back. I'm Jana, and in this week's tutorial video for the Mahina cardigan knit along, we're going to talk about binding off along the bottom of the body of the sweater and then picking up the sleeves and knitting that. So I have a couple of options for you as far as the bind off goes, and then for picking up the sleeves, I like to pick up a couple extra just so I mitigate any underarm holes. Not that we can't fix that later, and we totally can, but I just like to do that anyway. So I'll show you that. And then we'll talk a little bit about what I'm going to do with my sleeves. Okay, let's get started with that. I have finished all 25 rows of my lace section and picked off most of the cat hair. So we've ended with a right side row. So now I'm ready to begin the setup for the ribbing, which is on the wrong side row. I'm just going to carry on doing pretty much what we did for the neckline, where we're just doing that twisted rib, starting off by purling, and then again, just a quick refresher about purling through the back loop. You're just going to tip your left needle so you can get in behind the back loop and purl into that, and then knit one and purl through the back loop. So when you're on the wrong side, the purl through the back loop is the same as knitting through the back loop when you're on the, whoops, see I'm talking, not paying attention. This is the same as knitting through the back loop when you're on the right side. So we'll just carry on doing that. And then we're just going to do our ribbing for 2 1/4 inches or 5.5 centimeters. And then I'll show you, I'll come back after I'm done with all that and I'll show you how I'm going to bind off in pattern for the ribbing. Okay, I'm finished with my 2 1/4 inches of twisted rib, and I'm loving how it looks in combination with my lace section. I think that's pretty fantastic. So this is the right side. I've just finished row 2 of that ribbing, which is the right side, and now I'm going to bind off on the wrong side in pattern. So there's a couple different ways you can do this, depending on what your preference is. I would do a couple inches across and see what you like the looks of best. So the first way, obviously, to do it is just the standard bind off, where you just purl the first stitch. You're just going to do this in pattern, okay? So purl the first stitch, purl the second, and then you're going to pull that first stitch over the top of the second. Then I'm going to do the next one in knit, because it's a knit stitch, and I'm going to pull that over. So this is just like the standard bind off that everybody learns. So you can do that. The next one's a purl. You can do that all the way down, making sure you bind off pretty loosely so that it doesn't, I mean, you don't want it so loose that it's sloppy, but you don't want it to pucker and pull either. And if it's a knit stitch, I'm not twisting anything. I'm just doing it in patterns. So purls and knits. I'm not purling through the back loop or whatever. So you can see that's going to make a pretty clean edge there. So that's neat. So that's one option. I'm going to go ahead and tink this back out, and I'll show you another option, because honestly, I haven't decided which one I'm going to use yet. I don't know. The other option here is to do the kind of the stretchy bind off, and I have another video about this that I'll link down below in the video description. But you'd go in and purl whatever it is, then you'd go back through here and purl them together. So then this is a knit, so I'm going to knit this one, then I'm going to knit through the back loop. Okay, then the next one's a purl, so I purl that, leave those two on, and purl them together. All right, then I'm going to knit the next one, because it's a knit stitch. You can see that. Let me zoom in a little bit here. Okay, so the next one's a knit. You can see that. So I'm going to knit the next one, then I'm going to knit these two together through the back loop. I'm going to purl the next one, purl the two together, and I'm just going to do a couple more, and then I'm going to look and see how that compares and what I like the looks of the best for my bottom edge. You know, that's okay, and it is a little more stretchy, but honestly, I don't really care for these bumps right here. I'm not sure I like the looks of that as well as I do just the regular standard bind off. So yeah, I'm going to take this out carefully, and I think I'm going to go back and do the regular bind off that I showed you first. I'm pretty pleased with how that looks. Okay, so now moving on to picking up the sleeves. So I'm going to start on the right side and with the right side facing me underneath the arm, I'm going to begin in the center. So of the stitches that I did the cable cast on, or you might have done the thumb cast on, that's fine, whatever you've done here. But the first thing we're going to do before we pick up any stitches is just go ahead and we're going to take out the waist turn and put all of our stitches back on the needle. So I just go along. Now, obviously, this is easier to do if you have a barber cord, but I just go along and pick these up, sliding my needle in as if to purl. And I'll do 4 or 5 and then pull out the waist yarn. So not a big deal. The other option is to just put all of them on and then pull out your waist yarn at the end as if it were a lifeline. You can totally do that too, as long as you don't split your lifeline. The other thing I'll note is I am using the larger size circulars for this because we're going to, it's the same. So it's the same needle that we use to knit the yoke and the body with. Okay, I have all my stitches back on the needle. And when I did 13 cast on stitches here. So I'm going to start in the center and I'm going to pick up and knit 7 for my size. So I'm going to hold this up, and I may pick up an extra one here in the middle just so that I make sure I don't have any holes or anything weird. But if you look, this, I'm just going to choose my 7 according to the columns that are, let me zoom in here a little for you. I'm going to choose the 7 stitches I'm going to pick up according to these columns here. So that's the beginning of the top of this column. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm going to start here. So I'm going to get this other needle out of the way. And obviously I'm going to weave this in later, but I'm just going to go in, put the tail down inside the sleeve, put the tail inside the sleeve. And I know this makes a twisted stitch, but I wrap it counterclockwise the first time, so it's easier to get some tension on it and pull it through. And then I'll go ahead and go pick up my other stitches, correctly wrapping the way you would for a regular knit stitch. So I'm just going into the outside leg of my cable cast on at the top of the stitch column. So there's 4, and I'm not concerned if I end up picking up a few more than the pattern tells me, that's fine. I'll just decrease them out right away. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm going to put this other needle out of the way for a moment. So I have 5 right on here at the moment. Yours might look a little different depending on which kind of cast on you did, and that's fine. Now this, I have 6 here. If I pick this up like this, I could do that and tighten that up, but I think I'm going to twist it if I do that. There we go. Okay, that's going to make a little bit better. Again, if I need to, I can always darn it later too. That's fine. So what I'm going to do right now is pull on this other side of my magic loop so that then I can draw this left needle back in and start around. So I'm going to just knit around. So then I'm over here and I can pick up these other stitches because underneath the arm is going to be the beginning of the round. So what I might do also here, just so that I don't forget where my beginning of the round is, I'm going to put in this little locking pear-shaped thing because if you're doing magic loop, I don't want it to fall off on my cable. And if you're using double points or, something like that, then you're going to need to kind of keep track of where your beginning of the round is. If you're using a 9-inch circular, just, put a marker there. Okay, so I'm just going to knit all the way around. All right, I've knitted all the way around and I'm back to the other side here where I'm going to continue to pick up these stitches. And I may go ahead and pick up this one here in the corner, twist it, and knit into that just so I mitigate any holes. This one is a pretty long leg, so I'm going to do the same thing there. And I'm going to use the other end of my needle to help me with the twisted stitch there instead of using my fingers. So I'm knit into the back of that, so it's twisted. You do whatever you feel like looks best. Pick up however many you need to. We can always decrease them away later. I'd rather pick up a couple extra and do another decrease round than, have a larger gap under the arm. But again, if you want to just do it the way the pattern says and then we can darn it close later, that's fine too. Because you're the boss. Okay, I'm going to knit into where I put the marker. That's fine. Okay. All right, let me see how things are looking here. This is my first stitch, so I'm going to take the tail and kind of tighten that up a little bit, and I think I'm good to go. I also stopped halfway around, and because I'm using magic glue. So now, as you knit the next round, if you haven't done so already, go ahead and divide your needles how you're going to, whether that's double points or magic loop like I am, or however you're going to do that to complete your sleeve. And then we're just going to knit an inch and start the decreases. So hopefully that's clear. The decrease rounds, you're just doing every so often according to your size. So carry on with that. Okay, after you pick up all your stitches and you begin with the sleeves, you're going to knit about an inch, and then you're going to do decrease rounds, to taper the sleeve down. And then for, however many times you need to do your decrease round according to your size. So hopefully you've gone through and marked all those like we talked about in the beginning. I'm glancing at the pattern over here so I don't forget to tell you anything. Then the designer wants you to work in stockinette stitch, just work in straight stitch all the way down until the sleeve measures about 12 inches from dividing row, meaning from the top. Then you're going to knit your lace chart if you choose to do that. Now, I've seen some people that have chosen to omit the lace on the sleeves. I kind of like it. I think it adds a lot. I think it ties everything all together. But you're in charge, right? You're the boss of your knitting. What I'm going to do is knit a shorter sleeve and then do my 25 rows of lace because I want mine to be 3/4 sleeves. So rather than having my lace section all the way down here, I want my lace section 25 rows, which for me is at my row gauge was roughly 3.5 inches. So I'm probably going to start that around, maybe when I'm through the elbow, and then, whatever, 3.5 inches. So because I tend to push up my sleeves all the time anyway. And so I don't really want to be pushing up the lace section because the lace section to me is what kind of ties the whole sweater together. So I want the lace section to be blocked out and pretty and visible on my forearm, right? So that's what I'm going to do. The cool thing about knitting from the top down is that you can try on this sweater. You can, try it on carefully and you can see how that's going to be. You can measure. Now your row gauge might change slightly. In fact, it probably will because we're knitting in the round for the sleeve, whereas on the body of the sweater, we were knitting back and forth. So your row gauge, be mindful that your row gauge might change a bit for that. So, but that's what I'm planning on. And if it's half or 1/4 inch off on my sleeve, it's not a big deal to me. Not a big deal. Okay. The other thing I want to say is next week, I will be on vacation. So we're going to have that be a catch up week. This will be Tuesday. There will not be a video on Tuesday the 7th. I think it's the 7th. I'm going to have a catch up week. However, even though we're on vacation, I'll still be checking in with the groups and answering questions. And so some people have tried to message me on Instagram with questions or messaged me through Facebook. The best way to get your questions answered is to post in the group and then tag me. Because I check the groups more than I check direct messages on Instagram. And sometimes, I don't know, they're social media gremlins, and sometimes I see them, sometimes I don't. I don't know why. Tag me in the group, tag Purl together. If you have a question, post on Instagram and go at Purl together. That I'll see, but direct messages, sometimes not. So my apologies if I've been late in responding. So there will not be a video next week, and I'll see you to talk about the button band the week after that. So I will see you back on the 14th, but like I said, I will be checking the groups. So if you have a question, post in the group, tag me on Instagram, show a picture of your work in progress, and then tag me. That'd be great. All right. Happy knitting. I hope you're doing well. I'd love to see your work in the Ravelry group. You can certainly post in the Ravelry group. I check that on a daily basis as well. All right. Take care and happy knitting.